all the plugins I use at my studio every day. I'm going to start with Isotope plugins, especially Nectar, Neutron and Ozone. These three has been like my core of music post-production for over 4 years now. I can't be thankful enough to Isotope for making those plugins. They've already paid for themselves many times, and they are always in my vocal chain, always on my buses, always on my master track. I couldn't really imagine mixing without those nowadays. Nectar saves me up to 10 to 15 minutes every single time I mix some vocals. It's just super intuitive, super straightforward. The graphical interface is great, the built-in assistant is great, and it gives you a nice starting point for your vocal chain, which you can tweak afterwards. Neutron, on the other hand, is like a Swiss knife for everything you throw at it. Either it's a guitar or a bass guitar or a drum bass or a vocal bass. It can do everything a good channel strip should do, and the built-in exciter is the whole another level. It can bring some lifeless sounds to life. It can enhance the top end enormously. I'm just sold after using it for all of those years. This has been probably my favorite plugin from Isotope. And the last one, Ozone, which is probably the most popular one from Isotope. It's designed for mastering, but some separate modules can be used in any part of the mixing process. Yet I try mostly to use it in mastering because it lets you control everything in a really organized way, and you can add some more details to your mix with modules such as vintage tape, or you can make your mix a little wider with Imager. Those are minor tweaks that come at the end of the mixing, but if your mix is good, and if you use Ozone wisely, of course, because you can over tweak it pretty easily, it's going to work for you wonders. The next plugin is DeBreath. It's one of the simplest plugins on this list, but it does a really good job when it comes to getting rid of the breaths when you record vocals. And now every time I'm editing vocals, it's always at the beginning of my vocal chain. It saved me literally hours of my life doing this manually with volume envelopes, so it's definitely a good choice. The next one is Waves SSL EV2 channel, or other variations such as E channel or G channel. Every three of those are channel strips that come from the SSL 4000 consoles, different variations of those. And I usually use the EV2 channel on my master bus, actually, because I really like the compressor on this thing. But it can be used for any kind of channel. Basically, it just emulates a piece of an analog channel strip you would get on an analog console, and you can make any track of yours in your DAW analog. So you can add some saturation with the built-in preamp, you can use semi-Q, you can compress, you can use the gate or expander. There's many things to do, and it gives you a little bit of this analog transistor sound. It's not too crazy, like in terms of something that has tubes in it or tape saturation or anything like that. It's really subtle, but if you crank it very high, if you give it a little bit more of the gain, it's going to sound dirty in a really nice way. For over 4 years now, I've been using neural DSP plugins for my guitar tones exclusively, nothing else. I was so surprised with the quality of those plugins. I just started playing them. The first one I've got was 14 Nameless Suite, and I was blown away. It sounded like the real thing, or at least very close to the real thing. and it didn't really give me this artificial digital kind of feeling as it comes to my guitar tone. So then I got Nolly and Plen, and those are the three I've got till this day. I'm using them all the time for the guitar, and honestly I wouldn't even bother to look for some other plugins, since I don't feel like I need to anymore. And this was a really big struggle for me, because in my early days on the guitar I was always using plugins to get my guitar tone. I think I saw a fish. And every single one I got was really like artificial sounding. And neural DSP plugins are really nice to have around if you are doing some not only heavy, but nowadays guitars in general. They have every kind of tone you could possibly think of. And now, Cable Guys Halftime. I can't be thankful enough for this plugin. It's not really a mixing plugin, more like a music production plugin, but it essentially does what a part of Gross Beat from FL Studio does. So it can chop your beat, slow it down, and create different time and pitch variations based on the signal that comes into it. And I really like it because I'm a big fan of older Memphis rap music, funk music, and it usually has this breakdown at the end, which goes like super low, slowed down, chop and screwed, and this plugin just gives you this option right away. And if you use it on quarter notes and you slow it down by 1.5 times, it's going to make your track swing. Waves Kramer tape. This is the one that I've been using for the past few months, and honestly I wasn't really sure about this plugin at the beginning, because I've been through many tape emulation plugins and none of them really gave me this tape kind of feeling. But this one is different. This one was like an instant surprise for me. I started tweaking it, and essentially I like to, when I get a new plugin, I always try to go for extreme settings so I can hear what is like the peak kind of effect it can achieve. And this was the tape sound. The tape sound I know, from my tape machines I have at my studio, and I just loved it straight away. And it's got a really good slapback kind of delay, which you can turn on in the top right corner. I like to use it on some vocal parts, and it's just a great sounding plugin. And now we've come to reverbs. I use a bunch of reverbs, around 5 reverbs in my typical project. I don't always use every single one of them, but they are always there in my mixing template. The first one, the one that I'm using the most, is Arturia's Rev Plate 140, which emulates the EMT 140 plate reverb. It's insanely great. It can work great on many sources. I mostly use it on vocals, on drums. In some more extreme settings, it can be a really long tail kind of reverb, and it's really bright, so it can add a nice amount of atmosphere, of air into your mix, but you've got to be really careful about it. The second one is Raum from Native Instruments. I've been using it since 2021, I believe, or 22. The year I got machine, basically, because I've bought it with Complete 13. And this reverb was also given away for free at some point, so many of you may have it. It's a really, by default, it's a really bright and long kind of reverb, which I really like, but it has different modes which can change the sound a lot, and it would be a much more controlled, shorter sounding kind of reverb. So it's basically a really good and versatile thing. And my third reverb is Isotope's NeoVerb. This is my least used reverb. I only use it if I can't really find a good suitable sound with those previous two reverbs I told you about, but it's a really versatile one. It's got every style of reverb you could think of, and I think, I don't know if you know this plugin, which was Epic Verb. This was my very first reverb, and I've been using it a lot. And essentially, NeoVerb seems like a good and upgraded paid version of this one, which with much more features. So basically, if you want to get something that would be really versatile, NeoVerb is going to cover all your needs, but it doesn't resemble any like hardware kind of reverb. It has some plate sounds and stuff, but I haven't found them as good as, for example, Arturia's EMT. And the last plugin from today's list is TDR Kelnikov, a really well-known master bus compressor, which can do a lot. Honestly, most of the people think it shouldn't be free, but it's got the free and the paid version, which is a little bit more advanced. But the free version is way more than enough for me to control my drum basses, to control my master track or the vocal track in terms of dynamics. So it's a really nice thing to have around, especially if you are starting out. It may not be the easiest, but it's not too complicated too. I know it sounds weird, but if you don't know anything about compression, none of the compressors is going to be easy for you. Maybe those one-knob compressors like sausage fattener or something, but you know what I'm talking about. I'd like to make another video like this one, but exclusively with VST instruments, that changed my view on producing music, that gave me the sounds I didn't even know I was looking for. So if you like a video like this, just let me know. My name is Dominic, and keep the good vibes alive.